Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Trailblazers and Entrepreneurship. AAPI leaders share their stories. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a director of programs at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. At the center, we celebrate entrepreneurs from all backgrounds every day, but in a special collaboration with the Asian professionals at Nasdaq, APAN, we are pleased to be celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with you all today. As you're going to see in the chat in just a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So check out those links and resources in the chat. Couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Firstly, let us know where you're dialing in from in that chat. Secondly, we're gonna be opening up for some live Q&A near the end of the event if we have time. So please submit those questions for us in the Q&A box. We'll try our best to get to them all. Now, none of what we do here at the center would be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, BMO, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, BPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We're humbled by their contributions and hope you're grateful too. Now, before we get started, I'm going to launch a few polls just to take a step back and take a temperature gauge on how all of us are doing today. The first poll: how are you feeling about your business? Are you optimistic and surviving? Feeling a little anxiety? Let us know. We use these questions and polls to be able to understand what wellness and additional resources we should be providing for you, the entrepreneurs in our community. So thank you for voting. Let's see, as we're voting in, let's see where we're coming from. Philly, Fremont, California, New York. Hello, welcome. ASU, Florida, great. Seattle, Washington, Barbados. Oh, I love it. All right, so I'm gonna end this poll. Share those results. Oh, look, we got some Florida too, a lot of East Coast. I'm gonna stop sharing. But looks like optimism is in the lead, and hopefully we'll be able to help with some of those sentiments for this amazing conversation we have today. The second poll I'm launching here, Chicago, is what's keeping you up at night. We use this direct data to be able to help you, the entrepreneurs, in these key select areas in the coming months. So is it finance, sales, marketing? Looks like finance is in the lead. Pretty good mix here though, folks. All righty. Let's see. I'm going to end this poll, share those results just so you can see. Looks like finance is in the lead. So we'll take note and get to those topics. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest moderator for this discussion. Lena Shagori is a Senior Director of Corporate Platforms at Nasdaq. Lena, so good to see you. Looking forward to this conversation, and over to you.
Thanks, Colin. Great to be here, and great thanks to the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center for this wonderful opportunity to partner on this event in celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. As a brief introduction, as Colin mentioned, I am a senior director with Nasdaq's corporate platforms business based in the Bay Area. And it's really been my great honor and pleasure to be a global co-lead for Nasdaq's Asian professionals at Nasdaq Employee Network over the last year and a half. Our APAN membership has grown 150% since this particular global team has come together to lead APAN, and that just kind of let us know through conversations, through surveys, that this community is just looking to connect with one another, learn from each other, and find inspiration through our stories, experiences, and successes. So in 2024, APAN has really been focused on creating opportunities to support those objectives through virtual and in-person engagements involving social and educational topics. We've met with a diverse group of participants, including sitting U.S. commissioners, NASDAQ executives, and professionals in the arts and film industry. So today I am incredibly excited to be with you all to have a great conversation with two amazing founders who've accomplished great things at their respective companies, and in the process blaze their own paths to success, paving the way for others, like some of you in the audience, to follow in their footsteps. So with that, please join me in welcoming to our panel today, Sarah Lee, co-founder and co-CEO at Glow Recipe.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome. We love that you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your day. And also Charina Lumley, who is founding partner at Movemeant Foundation. Hi, Charina.
Hi, thank you. It's really great to see you all, and thanks for joining everyone on the call.
Awesome. And thank you both. And with that, I would love to hear just a brief introduction of yourself and the organization that you represent today. So, Sarah, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, thanks again, Lena, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here and share my story. I'm Sarah Lee. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Glow Recipe. And for those of you that are not familiar, Glow Recipe is a fruit-forward, clinically effective skincare line, ultimately to provide you with the most glowing skin. I'm a Korean American, and to this day, I get inspired from my heritage and my upbringing to operate my business and to create products. So I'd love to dig more deep into that, but that's a quick intro of who we are.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And where are you joining us from? Because I think we have a pretty widespread audience here based on what
Yeah,
Colin
I'm
mentioned
joining
earlier.
from Miami. Our company is actually fully remote. And so we have two offices, one in New York and one in Miami. Team members can go in whenever they want, collaborate as they wish. We have a very free-flowing, fluidity structure. But also my mantra when it comes to hiring is let's hire the best talent, not local talent.
Mm. That's yeah, I like that philosophy. And I think, it's not where you are, it's who you are and what you do and what you bring to the organization. So that's great. And are you on a beach? Since you're calling from Miami.
I'm very close to the beach for sure. I'm on the bay to be really precise. But yeah, I mean, it's great to be. I think the pandemic really shifted everyone's priorities and perspectives. And that's actually why COVID is what caused us to make this move. What's interesting here, though, is we have some team members at Glow in Miami, but a lot of entrepreneurs are actually here. So it's been a great sort of entrepreneurial community that I was lucky enough to be part of.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Cool.
Thank you. And Charina, why don't you go next and tell us about yourself and your organization?
Yeah, like Sarah, I'm super honored to be here and to be sharing the stage with her. I have been marveling at this brand for so long, so it's really nice to be in this context with her. I'm actually dialing in from Berlin, where the sun has gone down for the day, but the techno beats are getting turned up for the night, Despite being here in Berlin, I'm proud to say that I've been a card-carrying member of the San Francisco startup community for quite a long time. Over the years, I've worked at publisher startups, places like Dwell. If some of you know this, it's been kind of a mainstay in the home design world. I've worked in SaaS startups, focusing on the kids and parent enrichment space. But more importantly, and as part of that time, I became the co-founder of a health and fitness nonprofit organization called Movemeant Foundation, where we teach girls mostly between the ages of 11 to 14 years old, how to use sports and fitness as tools to build their self-confidence and their self-esteem and to really improve their overall mental health. So suffice it to say, we all know, or at least can relate to the powerful and, kind of nearly overwhelming emotions that emerge when we we finally cross over like a finish line, right? So Movemeant, we create those moments of success for girls and help her, channel those emotions to the other disciplines of her life. But from the sublime to the ridiculous, I also have a day job, right? And that's as the head of retail media for a company called Douglas, which is Europe's largest omnichannel beauty retailer. And I think that probably also gives additional context as to how Sarah and I came together to be on this virtual stage.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I think the movement's mission and purpose is so important just in terms of everything. When you're a young girl, right, in a very media heavy environment, it can be challenging to stay in that a good mental place. So it's very commendable based on what their genesis of was for the organization. I feel like we've already kicked off the conversation, so I love this already. So why don't we get into kind of the formal programming and dive deeper. So Sarah, as a pioneer in introducing Korean beauty to the global market, how do you stay ahead of trends and really maintain Glow Recipes' position as a leader in the industry?
Yeah. So thank you for that statement as well. I think that's a big one. So I'm very honored to be called pioneers. I'm a very proud Korean American, and my co-founder Christine is also, we share the same background. And when we first founded the company, we realized because we both used to work at L'Oreal, and that's sort of how we started the beauty careers. And we realized that we were the only two Koreans in the US office of 10,000 employees that were both bilingual, bicultural, and had equally experience in both Korea and US markets in beauty. That was pretty unique. And so I think we felt that some sort of a mission to bring over, this was 2014, the latest and the greatest innovations from Korean skincare to stateside and furthermore global. So that was something we felt very passionate about and had started glowrecipe.com back in the day for that reason. And fast forward 2 years later, 3 years later, we launched our own namesake brand, Glow Recipe Skincare, same name that you see in all of the shelves in Sephora and some of the other retailers around the world today. That brand still is very much inspired by our heritage and, the how-tos, the sensoriality, the immersive joy that you find in the skincare rituals, all of those aspects, and also not compromising on the efficacy of the results, came from what we've learned about Korean skincare, and again, how everything sort of worked, coming from our upbringing. And so, we're always going to be inspired by that to, number one, stay ahead of the curve because I think Korean skincare is very much advanced. I think there was a saying that, skincare from Korea is almost like fashion from Paris, where, you just kind of have that latest and the greatest and the innovations coming out of these markets. But at the same time, we're based in the US. We have team members from all around the country. A lot of our products are actually manufactured in the US as well. Some Korea, but a lot are actually made in the US. So technically, I wouldn't categorize ourselves as a Korean beauty company at this point because of all of the other factors. And we actually don't sell in Korea either with our brand. But at the same time, all of the core tenets of what Korean skincare stands for, which is, once again, sensoriality, the joyful aspect of the skincare experience, and also being gentle to your skin with the formulas that are gentle to the skin, but also super effective overnight and over time. Those are all of the elements that people love and appreciate about Korean skincare. And so we have all those combined with other sources of inspiration that our amazing product development team sources from, but also, inspiration can come from anywhere. The great thing is, our company is very community driven, very diverse community, in fact. And so we get ideas from them as well. We sometimes ask our community, what do you want to see next from Glow Recipe? Or even before we ask, they share very openly what they want to see in terms of innovation, where we should have our next pop-up store, which location, what fruit we should launch. Very, very active and engaged community. And they give us great ideas, frankly, and help us make some really important business decisions. So I would say a lot of different sources, but a core part of it is our heritage and our community.
I love that. That's great because it really speaks to kind of this company came from like the two of you, right? And not just you're looking to make product or create a company. You're really trying to share your cultural, heritage through this channel of beauty products. So in terms of how you incorporate your heritage into your leadership style, how do you do that? Are you conscious of that when you're making decisions or communicating with your colleagues, and how has it influenced the company culture, if it has?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think because I have a co-founder and we have an amazing relationship. My co-founder, Christine, and I have been friends for now 2 decades. So I feel like at this point we're family. We sometimes joke to ourselves that we talk to each other more than our husbands. But I think that culture of collaboration, truly listening to one another and coming from respect of each other is very much inspired by our cultural upbringing as well. And we mutually have that for each other. And I think that is how we kind of created this sense of community from just the two of us. And then now it kind of expanded to our team of now 75 people. And then the 3+ million followers on our social media channels. And I think the collaborative aspect, once again, coming from respect and really wanting to listen to one another is very much a core focus of our culture. We don't, as leaders, ever tell our team members what to do. We actually ask them the questions, and we're there like listening to what they have to say, and we love making decisions together collectively and making sure that everyone feels like their opinions and their voices are heard and seen. And when I was much younger, I grew up in Korea. I was told that it was more important for me to listen and not speak up or not, interrupt anyone else when they're speaking. That was definitely how I grew up. And of course, when I moved to the US, I learned, that wasn't always, how you would be successful in a work environment. So I really had to work hard and go an extra mile to find the balance of, listening to others while being able to be vocal and opinionated at the same time. And I think a lot of those learnings are applied to my leadership style every day. And ultimately, I want people to feel that even if they're, you know, better at listening and not being vocal, they still have room and space to share their thoughts and ideas. And that's what we always kind of try to encourage for the team culture.
Yeah, that's wonderful because, I think certainly in recent years, kind of the label of extrovert, introvert, right? There are different types of people, and just because one is maybe more quiet doesn't mean they're less valuable to an organization, but they may have to be challenged to speak up in order to be heard, literally. So that's really interesting.
Exactly.
Your background helped informed how you now manage your business today. So thank you for sharing that. Charina, so first off, congratulations on Movemeant Foundation's 10th anniversary. That's wonderful. And I love that it's coinciding with this year's and our conversation today. So that's got to be super, super exciting for you and the team. When, as you mentioned earlier, you got involved with the movement at the very beginning, you were also holding down a full-time job. So first, how in the world did you find the time and the energy to do that? And then also more seriously, what was it about the idea, the mission behind Movemeant that really compelled you to get involved?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. You're giving me a lot of credit right now. And what I'll say is, sure, it requires a lot of late nights, right? And a lot of early mornings. And I'm making a presumption with Sarah and maybe some of the other entrepreneurs that are on the call right now, is that's part of what we have to do, right? Before you make the leap from going from your corporate job or the things that are paying the bills to taking this risk, you kind of have to burn the candle at both ends. And there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes I think, okay, is this part of hustle culture? And are we just burning ourselves out to burn ourselves out? But the reality is that my mom always used to say, we have to come up with a skill set for taking calculated risks. And becoming an entrepreneur is, for me, and at least in this instance, an opportunity to define what calculated risks are. So, when Movemeant first started, I had a day job back then too. And, it definitely took a lot of those late nights and early mornings to figure out how to transition into a full time. And quite honestly, we didn't pay ourselves for an extraordinarily long time to make this happen. So there's definitely a lot of different choices when it comes to that. But I would say the driving force for me is this personal mantra that I developed in my early 20s. And that mantra is doing well while doing good, right? And, this philosophy is really just about, the ability to achieve, personal and professional successes while still making a positive impact on the world. And, having that as my guiding principle has really been a cornerstone of the better half of, the last 2 decades. So, the opportunity to create Movement came along with also a co-founder, someone who was also very committed, shared a similar story to myself in terms of, background, not necessarily culturally, but in terms of passion and interest in the health and fitness community. And definitely, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit later, but some of the traumas that result in creating organization where you're mission driven, it didn't appear to be a different business that I was going into, right? It was really just a mission to make a tangible difference in the lives of women and girls by promoting, movement, physical health, and mental well-being, right? So at the very core, Movement is really just about empowering people through the successes that you can feel physically and how to channel those physical successes into these other areas of your life. And for girls, that could mean, the feeling of sinking a three-pointer for her first time ever on a basketball court. How does that moment then translate into trying to find and work towards getting an A+ on a science test? And those things might seem like things that are very far away, but the reality is those emotions are actually really quite close to each other. So anyway, that's all to say that it's really been this passion for changing people's lives, for health and fitness, for allowing for people to discover their own successes that allowed me to juggle both of these commitments.
That's really cool. And I think, like you say, if you're an entrepreneur, you've got to really feel like you love it, right? It's going to give you that energy when you've been working 20 hours a day, or, you just go, you're burning on nothing. You have no oil left in the tank, but you're like, I got to keep pushing because this is something I feel very, very strongly about. So totally can hear you on that. Pivoting slightly, with your experience in Europe's beauty retail market, and being in, American in Europe, how do you navigate and bridge those cultural differences in leadership and, within the business itself?
Yeah. So Douglas is based in Dusseldorf, Germany. So that's in West Germany. And I don't think it comes as a surprise that it's an extremely cross-cultural company. For example, my division alone has members of the BIPOC community that spans at least half a dozen different countries, really encompassing languages like French and Spanish, German, obviously, Yoruba, which is the language of Nigeria, Mandarin. It's this diversity that really fosters this unique curiosity about race and culture, and something as even as polarizing as politics can be sometimes. And we encourage those conversations for learning, right? And we do that through virtual events, in-person events, and just fostering a natural dialogue that happens even in our daily stand-ups, right? And in such a rich multicultural environment, I think one of the primary challenges in ensuring effective communication across different mother tongues is one of the biggest things that we have to consider, right? So there's this great book, and Sarah, I wonder if you read it, called The Culture Map, right? And it talks about it's a book that's really designed about how do we work with people of many different cultures, and how do we communicate with them effectively. And one of the key points in there is really taking the time to learn and to recognize the importance of navigating communication styles that enhance understanding. So Americans, as Sarah was alluding to earlier, and definitely Germans, are very, very verbal and extremely direct, while Asians, I'm Filipino, I don't think I mentioned that earlier, definitely rely more on an implicit understanding and nonverbal cues, right? So like for anyone else here that might have like a Filipina mom or a tita, like you know exactly what I mean when she's like ready to take off her chinelas and like wave it at you. She doesn't need to say a single thing, like you're dead meat when she does that. So so for me, I think what we've done for our organization is really normalize the practice of asking clarifying questions, right? And even better yet, and maybe not even in particular to culture, but just generally like a great business practice is I think maybe something that Sarah was alluding to earlier, which is this idea of reflective listening, where we essentially paraphrase the speaker's message and then ask for confirmation, right? For us, this is extremely important because English for 99% of the company isn't anyone's first language. So this is the most efficient and easiest way to make sure that there just aren't any misunderstandings when we're talking.
Yeah, there's no question. Sometimes I've heard horror stories about people who, go to a different country on business and they're like breaking all these taboos, and you're like, oh God, you should Google the local, ethics, etiquette to help you with that. Because it can become tricky to navigate if you're not really aware that, you're visiting or you're dealing with someone with a different cultural upbringing, environment that you need to kind of seek to understand and also work well together. So thank you for sharing that. So Sarah, kind of along those lines, how do you adapt your marketing strategies to resonate with diverse audience, right? Considering Glow Recipe has this international presence. What do you guys think about when you're working on that?
Yeah, I think, as an Asian female entrepreneur, both founders actually felt very passionate about diversity and inclusion from day one. And that has actually been a core brand value that we've been able to kind of speak out about, but also figure out how we can evolve as a business to continue to speak about it in fresh, different ways that are relevant for everyone. And as mentioned earlier, we're so community driven. So I think one thing we've always done was to lean into what they have to say, what they're asking for, once again, from multiple different markets or multiple different backgrounds. And I think what we were able to, I guess, officialize in the last few years is, the term real skin acceptance. And, for those of you that are not familiar with that, with what that means is you can have acne, fine lines and wrinkles and pores. And that's all part of the process. And skincare should be a journey, not a destination, is our perspective. And so what we're saying to everyone is that, having flawless or perfect skin is not realistic at all. And this applies to everyone globally. It's a very universal sort of theme that we're trying to communicate across all touch points, actually. And so what we did a few years ago was to make a pledge. And we said that as a brand, we will never use unrealistic words like flawless, poreless, perfect complexion, anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, ageless. We promise to never use these words. And if you think about it, these are words that have been used in the beauty industry or any beauty ads or magazines that you flip around. Perfect is such a key word. Some of the products are named perfect or flawless. And the reality is, that's far from the truth. I mean, no one has flawless skin. And if you don't have pores, then you have problems. Like it's a bigger problem, right? Like we can't survive without pores. So we wanted to dismantle that unrealistic traditional beauty norm as a brand, but also be able to say, hey, look, no matter where you're from, what background do you have, what ethnicity, gender, age, we all go through our skincare journeys of ups and downs and other, forms of textures, and it's normal. So let's embrace that is our idea. And that is our way of communicating diversity and inclusion as a core value of the brand. What we've done since, almost the inception of the brand is we never actually retouched any of the model imagery. We kept them with the pores showing, with their acne scars and sunspots showing. And that I think really resonated with our community across the globe. I think that's one of the reasons why actually there's a lot of loyalty for our brand, because I think when the core values align with the consumer and the brand, that's when really the magic happens. And people come back for it, not just because the product is amazing, but because you believe in what they have to put out. And so we're really excited to continue this journey. Last year, we for the first time in the industry, we introduced this new concept of anonymous casting for our marketing campaign. So with a beauty campaign that we put millions of dollars behind for the first time, like the highest investment we've ever had to date. And for that, we didn't see a single model's face until they were announced that they were winners. We selected 10 models, and everybody had to apply, with questions that were more about their inner glow. Like, what is your experience and definition of beauty? What was your upbringing like with beauty in mind? How did you get introduced to skincare? And we got 4,000 plus applicants with essay long applications that brought our entire team to tears reading those letters. I mean, our entire team was just sitting together in one office, gathered, crying over these stories that our applicants had to share. And in the end, we had a third party sort of diversity advisory board that helped select the final 10. But when they joined and on a Zoom call and as founders, we announced the winners, it was just the most emotional, beautiful moment of our entire careers. And with their faces, we put them everywhere, took over New York City subways, Chicago and Miami double-decker buses. We went to Toronto, London, Billboard, Times Square, you name it. But it was just such a rewarding campaign because these people never imagined that their faces would be up on a Times Square billboard. So I'll pause here because I could talk about this for hours. And it is something that we're very excited about to continue.
I love that. That inner glow campaign. What a wonderful message to send not only to your customers, because I'm sure they share that with their friends, right? Who share that with their friends. Like that's such a first of all, it's so positive to just accept someone for who they are on the inside. I mean, it seems like such a basic message, but of course gets so lost. And I love how both of your companies and organizations are kind of aligned in this idea, like, hey, we are trying to support one another and accept each other as who we are and elevate through, whether it's, young girls and giving them those moments of, you can do this, you just did it, right? And for you, Sarah, right, Glow, focusing on let's think about the inside and accept us, right? We all have flaws. There is no perfect, there is no ageless. We're going to age, and that's okay. That's life, and it's a beautiful thing. So, like I got teary just hearing you talk about that campaign. So,
thank you. I mean, we had people from, let's say, there was a Down syndrome advocate. She had Down syndrome and she was so excited to represent her community, to be a model. We had an Asian, gay model who was, social media marketer. We had, this transgender model who was a professor who initiated for the very first time, I believe it was Michigan University, lectures around LGBTQ. I mean, these are people that are representing each of their community, but also by showing who they are as they are, can really just excite so many people and touch them in deeper levels. So I think, this year we're going to replicate the same campaign, but go bigger And we're going global by tapping into Europe, Charina. So we're going into your region. So we actually recently did a photo shoot in Paris too, with all the models that applied from different parts of Europe. And it's just going to be a really exciting path because we want to go to different regions every year to select the models.
That's pretty cool. I
You're
feel
right,
like
Lena. Our
Go ahead.
organizations are you know, identical in this way that we really are promoting this idea of acceptance, right? Of skin acceptance, that Sarah was saying, or at Movement, right? It's really about body acceptance. And when we think about the accessibility of beauty, or how we approach things like fitness and movement and sports, for example, you watch a marathon, the New York City Marathon, and you see people of all colors, of all sizes, of all ages. It's really a great equalizer if we use it correctly, right? And so the idea where Sarah takes away, or her team takes away, the ideas of using words like flawless or perfection or any of those key phrases, man, why aren't more people doing this? I mean, it's exactly the opposite of like the beauty industry that has had so many impacts on young women and girls, and it's really amazing for Glow Recipe to take this stance and be so bold about it. So really
Thank you.
kudos to you and your team. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's great for sure. I think this question could really go to both of you, and I'll let Charina, you answer first. And it's kind of related to what we're talking about, which is how do you balance the financial goals of a business with its social impact, right? What advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are looking to integrate that social responsibility into their ventures while also, hopefully trying to make a profit or at least get by, and not not lose money, I guess, on the venture?
Yeah, finance topics are, I think, always the most essential topics for any organization, particularly for social or mission-driven organizations. And in fact, I suspect it's for this reason alone that many philanthropies, many social impact businesses don't thrive. It's because the finance topics are the hardest ones to really harness. For us at Movement, right from the very start, we organized ourselves around the principle that, every for-profit business that we work with needs some type of return on their marketing spend that goes beyond a logo or a random social media post, right? So like long gone are the days of sitting there with an outstretched hand thinking that something's going to materialize. So in our early days, we galvanized our organization by producing Hallmark event series, right? This particular event series is called Dare to Bear. And for us, we teamed up with some of the most highly recognizable names in the health and fitness sector, like SoulCycle and Barry's Boot Camp and Atkins Army and Dog Pound, if you guys have heard of this, from New York City. And we didn't go small, we went big, and we took over landmarks like Union Square Park in New York City and Marina Green in San Francisco. And we hosted this, kind of audacious event where we were going to have the country's largest outdoor fitness festival. So pre-COVID, right, we had 10,000 people coming through our event at any given time. And it was a gold mine of extremely unique to us event marketing capabilities that we could leverage for our corporate partners and those who really wanted to access those people, right? So in our later days, post-COVID, when events were not happening, we really had to pivot. And this is also, again, a cornerstone for many entrepreneurs, right? If something's going wrong, you got to figure out quickly what to do next. But even in that pivot, our sentiment still remained the same, right? So the question was always, how do we work in a way that makes impact, but keeps us unique, but also aligns ourselves to the needs of our corporate partners, right? And so it was that time for which we developed a grant series called Wellness for All for our BIPOC community. And we did this in coordination with Athleta. And it was here where what we had done was, I think there's some commonalities here, Sarah, with the program that you did with your models. But we, launched this grant series. We had thousands of applications from Black and Brown founders in the wellness community who are, traditionally underrepresented in this category, and applied for both financial resources and marketing services to get their ideas and their organizations out, and their businesses really out there. And what we had asked them for were essays on what they were going to do, what their vision was, how they were going to make impact on their community, how they were going to scale their business, at 6 months, 18 months, 3 years from now, and really share with us how they could make a difference. And it was those same moments where you're reading through applications and there's too many to choose from. There's so many great people doing amazing things, especially from a BIPOC community that's often underrepresented, right? So it was a wonderful experience. I feel your emotion when you were talking about yours. So this is all to say that, understanding and playing the game when it comes to finance is really essential. So for us, right, we work a lot with our corporate partners. They fund a lot of the programs that we do. So it's that recognition that, like it or not, we're in a tit for tat kind of a environment, and we have to play this game with them, and that's okay, right? It's totally okay. So for those on the call that might feel like, oh, that feels a little strange. I mean, the reality is you can achieve your mission, you can achieve your impact, and you can still offer commercial benefit to the people who fund and support your business.
Very true. Very true. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to add to that question?
Yeah, no, I think it's an important question because, you can't do just one or the other. Like it just somehow you have to find a way to balance all of it. And that's always a fun challenge. But just to give an example, we call it the Do You campaign. Do you get it? DUWU. That was the recent campaign with the anonymous casting because you're doing you. But for that, what we wanted to do was not just only showcase the faces of all these models, but to actually, number one, when we were casting, one of the criteria was that they needed to already be fans of the brand. So they can naturally and organically speak about our products, during, let's say, their Get Ready With Me videos or, at the photo shoot studio and whatnot, because we were capturing photos, but also videos to just tell their stories. So that was criteria number one. And then also what was important for us is for the models to pose with our two best-selling products that everyone by then were already fans of. So one of them, for example, is this watermelon toner that I'm holding on right now. And it gives a beautiful glow and radiance, and everyone actually had tried this product. So we told them to just pose with it, talk about it, be natural, share why you love this product, how you feel after you try this product, or when you incorporate it into your routine. Same with the other product, which is called Dewdrops, and both are equally top sellers of our brand. And because they were so naturally integrated into the campaign, we didn't really know what to expect from a conversion and traffic standpoint for the product, right? Like the main goal was the brand awareness and also like the value-driven messaging. But we were sort of hoping to see some sort of a lift from these hero products. What was fascinating to us is because, to your point, Lena, people were sharing this everywhere. I mean, friends of friends and friends. Oh, thank you, Jenna. Yeah, these are the two products that are really popular. We actually sell, one bottle every 12 seconds around the globe for each of them. And after the Do You campaign, we saw a significant increase in sales, which we were all very surprised by. But I think, that the lesson learned from this is there is a way, just don't force it. but there is a way if you find sort of an organic and authentic way to tell a story, because a brand of a certain threshold, the main challenge is not to launch products. It's how do you maintain your bestsellers to continue to be bestsellers? And that actually is the anchor of how you can, build your brand to keep on growing, right? And so we're constantly challenging ourselves as to how can we sustain and build our bestsellers by incorporating them with the value-driven messaging so that people are sort of connecting those two together and not separating them. And it's very authentic at the same time. So it actually encourages people to purchase the products at the end. So the conversion was definitely a hit out of this campaign, and we're hoping to see the same results so that we're not doing one or the other ultimately.
That's so cool. I have a question from Tessa, and I'm wondering if you guys, so the question is how best to quantify or calculate ROI for social impact. So I'd be curious to know how you measure that if you do. And yeah, so if either one of you want to start with that.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say like measure social impact. Again, in our case, it's how do we talk about, the values that are related to social impact that can translate into conversion. So in this very specific Do You campaign, the ROI was absolutely, I mean, it was way over what we expected, anticipated. But I think because there are several factors as to why this happened. It was authentic, like I said, but it was also something that no one's ever done. So you're really creating I guess, a conversational topic and a buzz online for people to keep sharing and wanting to chat about it. And I think if you have something that's innovative, disruptive, differentiated, no one's ever done it, it could be a risk. I mean, when we first came up with the idea, we were nervous, of casting models that we would never see until the final selection. But I think, part of it is taking a risk and feeling that this could actually really lead to a really great ROI moment. And that's kind of what happened with this case. And I think in general, there are other tactics that we incorporate so that when there is value messaging, somehow there's a link to either the product or we're expecting a brand halo effect. There's some sort of commercial aspect that you can find at the tail end of the campaign. And I think we've so far seen good success.
That's great.
Yeah, for me, the ROI, I'll be brief. Our ROI is a little bit different because as a nonprofit organization, right? We don't we measure ourselves by a different standard in the sense that we're not selling any products, and so what we are doing is both ensuring that we're delivering on the pledge that we've made in terms of our impact for the women and girls that we serve. However, it's important to note for cause-related marketers who engage with us as brand partners, right? We have a responsibility to them to know that the work that we're doing is effective so that we can renew that business, right? This is important for us because we need corporate partners to ensure the livelihood of our own organization, and that is not lost on us. So that's all to say that when we do have corporate partners, we also keep track of their sales and talk with them regularly about their own ROI. Did this work? Did this not? What about this social post? So on and so forth, so that we can learn and iterate and ensure that they're seeing the success that comes from the marketing that they do with us and through us. And that allows us to then continue on with the work that we do, making impact for the girls that we work with.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you both for that. I think moving on to one of our final questions here for both of you. Can you share who or what inspired you in your entrepreneurial journey and how that has shaped your approach to leadership and to the business itself, whether it's, where you're at today or just in your general career journey? Who would like to go first?
I'll just be really quick and brief. From a product and concept perspective of how I founded the company Glow Recipe, my mother was my source of inspiration, and she is the skincare guru that I still look up to for tips and ideas, but also just a wise human being. So for any sort of relationship related challenges or conflicts, whether it's with a vendor or, business partner, I would always pick up the phone and call my mom, who lives in Korea, by the way. And she would always give me the best advice and, proactively actually ask questions that will inspire, new ideas and new sort of like approaches that have helped me and guided me for so long. And then in addition, I would say, the female entrepreneurs that I've met along my journey have been really inspiring. I mean, I think just being here with you ladies here is an honor, but also when I hear your stories and your reactions, your feedback to what I have to share, like it's very uplifting. And I think this is what inspires me to do what I want to do continuously and hopefully be able to inspire other people, not just in the industry, but overall, like other female professionals. And that's actually one of my personal goals. So at our company, we started a mentorship program that's very much focused on mentoring female founders, BIPOC female founders. And we're at the fourth cohort, and it's just been so rewarding. But I'm constantly learning and inspired by fellow female entrepreneurs, and that's just been such a beautiful experience.
Love that. Is your mom a tester of any of your products? Does she give you feedback?
Always. She's very honest with her feedback, let me tell you that. But that's helpful.
Charina?
I'm gonna actually say the same thing with my mom too, but maybe put a little bit of a different twist on this because when I was growing up, my mom nicknamed me Baby Demulag. So if you're going to take anything away for American Asian Heritage Month, there's this really interesting Tagalog word called Demulag, which is stands for water buffalo. So this was a nickname that I had growing up, and probably gives you a little. This is going to give you a little bit of context behind the backstory of Movemeant, but it was this name. I was a really kind of large, round bull in a china shop type of person, growing up, it was like just this contradiction constantly because they were calling me Baby Demulag all the time, this baby water buffalo, and basically calling me kind of a fat person. And at the same time, they were like constantly shoving food down my throat, right? Which I think is common for many cultures, that these people are like trying to feed you food and to show you love, but at the same time, like kind of making fun of you at the same time. All this to say, I mean, the bullying catches up with you, right, at some point in time. And it will be no surprise to say that I ended up with a pretty serious eating disorder where I ended up both anorexic and bulimic. And I wish I could say that didn't last for long, but the reality was it wasn't until my mid-30s that I really start ending my challenging relationship with food. So right for like half my life, I felt really broken and uncomfortable in my skin. So, like, what does this story have to do with entrepreneurship? I think we talked about a little bit of this earlier. Like, there's always these characteristics of entrepreneurship: confidence, resilience, flexibility, courage. And I wasn't any of that, right? Until, one day where my kid was 2 years old and I had this really harsh realization that I wasn't a great role model, and I was beating myself up constantly with these self-sabotaging thoughts. And I really needed to deal with those thoughts. In our household, we call this like facing our ugly parts. So for the next 6 months after that, I had embarked on this like journey where I was like, I'm going to do the most embarrassing things I could think about to help me really overcome these insecurities, mostly around my body, right? But also around my negative self-talk. And so I did a ton of embarrassing projects. The first one is when I recruited a dance instructor friend who taught this class called Don't Worry, Beyonce. And now she knew I had like zero agency over my body, and I was kind of like freaking out about it. So before the class, she met me at a bar, gave me 2 shots of tequila and a margarita, and she was like, "Let's do this." And she was like, "Put on these red high heels." And so ultimately, with all that liquid courage, I ended up learning a dance routine to Love on Top. And it was really interesting as I totally sucked at it, right? And like, that's okay. And I went back one less margarita later, and I did it again. And then I did it again after that. And then, you know, from there, I was like, I have to keep this project going. And I ended up learning to pole dance and walk down a runway like a supermodel. I learned to break dance with a bunch of 14-year-old boys. I went to improv class. I obviously sang karaoke with Celine Dion songs because I'm a proud Filipina, right? I even at one point in time learned to twerk. So what's the real lesson here? Because you certainly didn't come to hear me learn that I could twerk. But you know what I realize is after all of this trauma from my childhood, and now the backstory of why and how movement is so important, and why it was created to begin with is, you know, for entrepreneurs out there, right? Like facing your ugly parts, really actively seeking out uncomfortable situations really desensitizes you, and you can transform it into a tool for your own personal and professional growth. And then the second thing I really learned was like to give 0 Fs, right? Like probably the most interesting thing I learned during this time period wasn't about me at all. It was the fact that no one cared about me at all, right? They are so wrapped up in their own world that they were just happy that I was worse than them, and that gave them, you know, kind of the room and the freedom to be more themselves. And I think that's really the point when it comes to entrepreneurship: willingness to fail, and then willingness to be yourself when you come out the other side.
Well, thank you for being so open and sharing your story. I think, you know, and wrapping it up that way, it's just, look, you know, we all have our experiences that brought us to where we are today, whether you're an entrepreneur getting started or you're Sarah and Charina, you know, 10 years plus into your ventures. I think being fearless and just taking that risk, you know, will carry you a long way, along with the passion for what you do. So I just want to say thank you both for being here once again. It has been really, really wonderful speaking to you both about just your stories and experiences. And I certainly hope, and I'm sure that the audience has got some great takeaways and some food for thought to apply to their own journey. So thank you both. Thank you all for being here, and I will hand it back to Colin to take us home.
Amazing. Thank you, Lena, for leading such an honest and candid conversation. And of course, thank you so much, Sarah and Charina, for sharing a lot about your leadership journey to inspire the future generations out there and on our entrepreneurial community. So really appreciate your time, sharing your wisdom and some of your leadership journey with all of us today.
Thank you for having us. Actually, this was such a great session for myself, even because I felt like I was just sharing and opening up, and it was very therapeutic, actually, personally.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Well, thank you all. And for everyone on the call, thank you for joining us. We've got some upcoming events and webinars, so you can check those out in the chat or on our website. But we really appreciate you all joining us today, and we look forward to welcoming you all back online soon. Thank you so much, Lena, Sarah, and Charina.
Thank you.